everyone, family. Welcome to Blacklogic. The black homeless rate in Chicago is disproportionately high compared to the white homeless rate. Now, in 2021, the black homeless rate was around 40%, while the white homeless rate was around 18%. This means that black people are more than twice as likely to be homeless as white people in Chicago.
That you would consider such action about a forgotten community that none of you live in.
Developing tonight, outbursts and outrage at a community meeting in South Shore over a housing plan for migrants.
The debate comes as the city deals with the crisis of where to put migrants bussed in from the border.
Elizabeth Matthews is live now with more. Elizabeth.
Corey and Don, contentious to say the least. This forum was a chance for city leaders to get input from the public about the old South Shore High School housing migrants. The city got their input. A packed house at the South Shore International College Prep High School. The crowd voicing their opinion, strongly opposing the addition of migrants in their community.
I am just outraged. I'm outraged, and I don't understand why our community was chosen.
City representatives saying the old South Shore.
Well, sister, your community was chosen. First and foremost, it's because you're black. Secondly, it's because we continue to vote Democrat and not having any demands from the Democrats because we know that the Republicans will ignore us, and the Democrats push the racist narrative that they are inherently racist, where both parties are just as racist as each other. But let's move on here. Now, in a sanctuary city for migrants, the long, grueling wait for an apartment, Joseph, 47, sets up a bed frame in his new basement apartment in Northside neighborhood on June 14th, 2023, so roughly about a month and a half ago. Joseph fled political upheaval in his native Nicaraguan and was able to move out of a city shelter into an apartment with the help of state-administered rental assistance program for asylum seekers. That means that Joseph came to America roughly about 9 to 10 months ago, and they have furnished and providing him an apartment in order to live his life great, while we have a large proportion of black Americans, around 40 to 50% now, that live in Chicago that are homeless. And this is because we continue not to demand not only what we're owed through reparations for the blood, sweat, and tears of our ancestors, but continue to group in with these other groups and have them to be these buffer groups that then turn the blind eye to white supremacist attacks on the foundational black American family. So this is what we get. It states here, after nearly 9 months bouncing between crowded city shelters with little privacy, Nicaraguan asylum seekers Joseph and Jean Martin got the keys to an apartment of their own last Wednesday, okay? So two of them, they got their own apartments, and they're from Nicaragua, right? They came all the way from Nicaragua to get a free apartment from the Chicago city government. And how many Chicagoans, your family members, our family members, that are living on the streets? They've been living on the streets for years, and they've been waiting for the city of the tax dollars that your brothers and sisters are providing to provide some sort of restitution, to provide some sort of rehabilitation so they can get back on their feet. That's what your tax dollars are for. But instead of that, they're moving in these illegal immigrants inside of your neighborhood, not only soaking up the meager resources that you have, but now you're leaving yourselves none and nil, meaning that you have absolutely nothing. But wait, there's more, because it states here, on a recent Wednesday, a truck full of secondhand furniture, listen to this, pulls up in front of a basement apartment on a tree-lined street in Chicago. Movers unload a bed. Then the guy from the truck, he's like, we were supposed to set up some things for you. Do you need us to set them up? A mover asks. The new residents here are Joseph and Martin. Remember Joseph and Martin? Joseph and Martin. Here we go. Joseph and Martin. Jean Martin, correct? So now, not only getting a free apartment, they're now getting free furniture. When does this happen for black folk? Don't worry, I'll wait. It states here, the new residents here are Joseph and Martin. We're only using their last name for safety. Don't worry, we got their first names as well. Jean Martin, okay? It states here they're moving into their first Chicago apartment after fleeing, okay, fleeing their home country, meaning they didn't stand up and fight as Foundation of Black Americans do. We stand and fight, we protest for justice, equal disparities. We fight for all these things, do we not? But it says after fleeing political upheaval in their native Nicaraguan country, guess what Joseph and Jean said? I am home finally. That's what he said. He said, I am home finally. I have a place where I can call home, Martin said. What about those black folks? What about those foundationals that they're on the street? Oh no, they can't call it home because they are unsheltered. And now I'm talking about the ones who really are trying to get back on their feet, because guess what, family? I'm a product of homelessness. That's right. Me and my mom was homeless back in the day in Washington, D.C., my home city, where we lived in and outside of shelters. I'm also a group home advocate. I lived in a group home for a good portion of my life. So in those regards, we're seeing the amount of support that Chicago, New York, D.C., all of these so-called sanctuary cities that have Democratic governors as well as Democratic mayors give the utmost support with resources. We're talking about money, tangibles like apartments and furniture and stuff. But this gets a little bit deeper than that, because if you think your governor was not in on this, well, he is. That this is not your governor, this is your Secretary of State, but this is by the orders of the governor. It states here, let me blow this up for you guys. It states here, immigrants in Illinois, with or without permission from the U.S. immigration authorities, right? They don't have the approval or the authority through the U.S. government, federal, but statewide they do. It says U.S. immigration authorities will soon be able to obtain standard driver's licenses that can be used for identification. Guess what they have, Chicago? They have a picture ID that's from the city that's not a driver's license. No, it gets deeper than that, because you're not just handing out driver's license because you are now authorizing them to drive. Drive is a freedom of a citizen of that city, of that state, of this country, that we're now giving to anybody who wants to come here. Not through H-1B1 or some sort of green card. No, we're talking about people who are not even registered, that we're letting them cross the border, that we're giving them apartments, we're giving them furniture, we're giving them driver's license. And I just showed you the other day that guess what? These guys can now be police officers. So I can come from Nicaragua, I can come from Honduras, I can come from Mexico, I can come from South America, I can come from all these countries, I can come from Haiti, and guess what I can be? I can be a police officer. I can barely speak English, but you know what I can do? I can police up the black community. I sure can. I can be your buffer class, so when them Negroes get out of line, I can hit them with this baton. I can sting them with the tasers. So this is what's going on, family. It states here that Governor Pritzker on Friday signed House Bill 3882, which will phase out the temporary visitor driver's license, or TVDL, which non-citizens currently use to drive legally in Illinois. It says the new law takes effect July 1st, 2024. So he's going to phase it out, so to speak. But this entire time, they were able to drive. But here's the thing. This is dated for July 1st, 2024. During that time, you know what can occur, family? An addendum can occur. That means, or an extension can occur. They can make all these sub laws. They can even make a treaty with illegal immigrants. They can do whatever they want, because again, this is the benign neglect policy that our brothers and sisters will never get from any of these government unless we stand 10 toes down, unified and organized. Yeah, we're not going to agree on everything. We're not going to be kumbaya on every single thing. But when it comes to black empowerment and getting what's owed from us and standing up for what's right, that is when we unify. That is when we organize. Yeah, there's a lot of things we're going to be divisive between in our group, just as any other people. But we're the fighters of this country. We're the fighters of this nation. We have never turned a blind eye. We're not fleers. We are revolters and we are rebellious. And so we need to do these things. So Not just in Chicago, not just in New York, not just in DC, but around the nation and all the cities where our people are, whether it be Houston, Dallas, DC, New York. It doesn't matter, family. We have to stand 10 toes down on this because they are using these people in order to benign neglect us and eradicate America of the people who built this country, who are the culture of this country when it comes to music, when it comes to food, when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to intelligence, when it comes to inventions. Look it up. Look it up. If you are a non-foundational Black American, look up the inventions of Black Americans that was built and invented and innovated prior to you coming here. Then you will understand the passion. Then you will understand our fight. And for you Chicagoans that don't know your governor, who's waiting an entire year to phase out this whole so-called driver's license for illegal immigrants, here he is, J.P. Pritzker. And you know he's a billionaire. It states here that J. Robert Pritzker is an American billionaire, businessman, philanthropist, and political serving as the 43rd governor of Illinois since 2019. Should you vote him in? Again, that's my question, because you guys did the right thing by making sure that Lori Lightfoot did not have a second term, but you have another mayor in office who's now supporting them as well. But we'll get on that. But this guy, it states here, what party is he? Democratic Party. Yeah, the cat's out of the bag. And so the homeless in the Black American community is disproportionately high in Chicago. And they have all these graphs. I'm not going to bore you with that. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty of things. It states here that homelessness is disproportionately experienced among historically Black groups in the United States. And I just jump right to the meat and potatoes because it says for Black Americans, right? The disparity is especially stark in Chicago, for example, despite making up, this is back in 2021, now it's about 40% of the general population, according to City of Chicago 2021 Homeless Point in Time Count and Survey Report, that Black Americans account for more than 70% of those experience homelessness. This rate is back from 2021. Guess what that rate is now? 75%. Let's dive a little bit deep into the numbers again, because this is coming from chicago.gov, by the way. This is from you guys' report. You can look this up. Let's get right down to it, family. Here we go. One more step. It states here, gender. I'm going to jump right to it. Population demographics, gender. Males continue to be the dominant gender group among the population, making up just under 60% of all individuals, right? Then we go down to race and ethnicity. Despite making about 1/3, listen to this, 1/3 of the Chicago's total population, Black Americans are overrepresented at 73% of the homeless population. But you have apartments and free furniture and driver's license and monthly stipends for illegal immigrants that you allow because you are a sanctuary city, but you are not a sanctuary city for foundationals. You are not a sanctuary for the descendants of the slaves. You are not a sanctuary for those people who are the descendants of the blood, sweat, and tears, those who went through Jim Crow and slavery that built this country. No, there's no sanctuary for us, right? Then it gets into the population. Look at this, family. Race and ethnicity. Let me blow this up for you for guys on your cell phone. 73%, 72.9, 73% makes up the homeless population of Chicago.
And I want to start by saying, this is South Shore. These are neighbors. These are invested stakeholders. These are friends. We have a few of our Woodline friends here that are also neighbors. We love our community, and there's a misperception that the Black community just sits around and allows violence to happen, and we don't care too much about the education of our children, but we do. We work hard, absolutely. We work diligently, and we volunteer our time because we want to see our community just like communities on the north side. We want to be able to have the same resources, the same access to jobs and opportunities as other communities. That's right. So today I stand before you because members of the Black Community Collaborative, South Shore constituents, and stakeholders are extremely dismayed by the city of Chicago's inability to control and develop safe parameters around housing migrants that have been transported here from the border. Our specific frustration lies in the continuous and blatant disregard for the safety and overall quality of life of Black residents, as many of these migrants have been dumped in our neighborhoods without a plan in place to monitor and house them long term. They have intentionally created barriers to impede participation in a decision-making process around the public school buildings we pay taxes to maintain, and that they unjustly close, and ignoring the community's plea to keep them open.
Now, I want you guys to think about something, family, because people would tell you there's a number of contributing factors that leads up to the high rate of homelessness of Black Chicagoans, right? You got racial, discrimination. You have the legacy of redlining. You have the school to prison pipeline. But the most important thing that is a contributing factor that will increase the numbers of Black Chicagoans being unsheltered, being homeless, is illegal immigration. And it's not just by the way of the governor. It's not just by the way of the sanctuary city narrative. It's by the way as well as your new mayor, the guys you voted in as well, Mayor Brandon Johnson. Because when we look at this in totality, we can talk about the racial equity in housing. We can talk about the racial equity in employment. And the most important thing, we can always talk about reparations of what we are owed. We don't deserve reparation, family. We are owed reparations. Totally two different things. Okay? So let's look into this. We're going to jump right to it. Goal 1. This is his immigration plan. Strengthen and invest in infrastructure to be inclusive, not exclusive, right? Inclusive of migrant and refugee communities to make Chicago a true welcoming city. And it also states, ask state and federal agencies to allow new arrivals to work with authorization. This is his plan. He is saying when migrants get to the sanctuary city of Chicago, allow them to work. Because we are already going to give them driver's license. They already got apartments, but allow them to work. But what about your fellow Black Chicagoans living on the street? Those foundationals, right? Looking to open up city employment to immigrant communities excluded by federal work rules. Meaning that we're going to build up these communities where these illegal immigrants can come in and they can work, and we don't have to abide by the federal government. That's what they're saying. That we're going to bypass the federal government. But not neglect much? Absolutely. Goal 2, expand multilingual education and integrate sanctuary policies and CPS. So not only are they going to give them apartments, furniture, driver's license, jobs, but they're going to even help them speak English so they can talk to you guys. And while they're going to doctor in those new illegal immigrant police officers, they can speak to you in English while they bash you across your damn head. Because we need to stop voting for these political parties. I don't care if it's Independent, Green Party, People's Party, GOP Party, Democratic Party. We need to start fighting and voting for reparations, justice. That is what we need to start voting for, family. Listen, as I told you before, we're not going to agree on everything. But these things we can agree on, can we not? Because this is coming to a city near you if it's not already on the ground yet. And here's the thing. We've been saying this for a very long time in the Black empowerment space. We've been trying to tell our people, inform our people, but it's kind of like one of those things when you're raising your kids and you tell them and mentor them, and you repeat it over and over again. You got some of those who adhere to the mentorship and wisdom and information and knowledge that you're giving them. And then there's others, they just need a slap in the face, do they not? It states here, come on, let's move on. Let's move on down to some of the information here. Address concerns about immigration enforcement officials entering school grounds. Allow excused absence for CPS students and employees who need to attend immigration appointments. So they're going to get paid and excused while they go to these immigration appointments. It states Illinois' hospitality leaders and some bipartisan lawmakers have urged the White House to help address labor shortages by allowing expedient work visas for new arrivals. So when I look at this whole situation to my Chicago families and all of these sanctuary cities around the nation, look at what they're doing. You have a high population of homeless Black people. And instead of empowering, employing, housing, teaching, training, rehabilitating those Black applicants that are the descendants of the slaves of who built this country, who are non-migrants, who are non-illegals, instead of rehabilitating them, getting them back on their feet, you know what you're saying? We're going to take people who are non-native, who are illegal, who entered the border illegally, and we're going to house them, furnish them, make sure they have driver's license. We're going to give them monthly stipends a month, and we're going to build communities around them to work, and we're going to teach them English. Goddamn Chicago. Goddamn Chicago. Let me tell you something, family. This is not Chicago. This is not Chicago. This is going to happen in D.C., my hometown. This is going to happen in New York. It's already been happening in New York. They are kind of put them in apartments, giving them monthly stipends like $2,000. But you'll get enough migrants in one place. $2,000 is a lot of money for a city government, for a state government to give to people who are non-native and illegal to the country. See, a lot of people are looking down on states like Texas and Florida. I won't really get too much on Florida. I live in the state of Texas now. And when I look at this, there's a lot of things that I don't agree with the governor, because not only I'm non-politically affiliated with him, but there is bits and pieces I understand about the methodology in which he's using. Because in white supremacy, they take up both sides of the narrative. They take up both sides of the argument, so to speak. Because on one hand, I can understand that he's busing migrants out of Texas because the federal government will not secure the border. And when they put in these floating barriers, remember that story? The floating barriers, so they can slow down, decrease the number of migrants that are crossing into Texas, which is a border country, illegally. He is busing and flying migrants to all these sanctuary cities. Majority of these sanctuary cities are Democrat. And of course, if they're Democratic sanctuary cities, they are Black sanctuary cities. So he's killing two birds with one stone. He's getting rid of illegal immigrants. He's getting rid of illegal migrants. And he's decimated the Black population because he knows that it's going to drive the resources of the meager resources that the Black communities don't even have to this day, because those cities and state governments are not even funding. So when I look at this, family, this is the one election, not just on the federal level, not just for president, because one of the most important elections that you guys will ever vote in are your local elections. Your city aldermen, your city councilmen, as well as your mayor, and as well as your governor. So when you look back and it's time to vote, don't fall into the white supremacy narrative of the Democratic Party that, oh, those Republicans are racist, and if they get in office, things are going to be worse. I'm going to say something that Donald Trump going to say. How bad can it get? Look how bad it's getting. And some of you are going to write, well, ever since Donald Trump, no. It was bad like this even with Obama. It was bad like this even with Bush. It was bad like this even with Clinton. It continues to get worse. We are on a trajectory of going down, down, down. All the work that our ancestors have done, even during the Jim Crow era, the Civil Rights era, those things were kind of peaking to a certain point, and then they eliminated very pivotal people in the Black empowerment space by the way of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. We had a lot of other people doing the work, don't get me wrong, but those are the two highlighted figures that was really on the ground beating the drum. And soon as Martin Luther King started talking about we're going to the White House to get our check, what happened to him? Assassination. So here we are now. We're bigger, we're stronger, we're more educated. But that doesn't mean anything if we keep falling for the fear tactics of the Democratic Party. We keep falling for the ignorance of the Republican Party. If we stand 10 toes down and put demands on the table and like, this is what we want, or we don't care if this whole thing falls down. We don't care who's in power. See, the whole narrative, I'm a Democrat, I'm a this. No, we are a people that are demanding the things from this government on a state and federal level, as well as local, of the things that are owed to us. See, the Asians occurred one increased year of racial attacks. Where the Black American family, if you go to FBI.gov, you would see the figures of all the racial attacks on the Black community. Our numbers are 2-3 times the amount of any other group. But what did Joe Biden do? He gave them an anti-Asian hate crime bill. So when you go and attack them or you say derogatory words to an Asian person, it's a federal crime and you will go to jail. But have we gotten that? But you have all these people that look like me, they're saying very, very different things to go and vote Democrat because of X, Y, and Z. But they're not speaking to the hearts and minds of the foundational Black American community of reparations and justice. See, there's a lot of things that we are owed. There's a lot of things that we need. But a lot of these things can be handled with the money that is owed to us by the federal, state, and local and these independent businesses in the form of reparations, similar but not exact to the Native Americans, as well as being a protected class, just as well the Native Americans, the Asians, and the LGBT community. So with that being said, be one.